Good morning. We'll call this General Purpose and Administration Committee to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will declare on report TR 1018 on a condominium, re Foxbridge. I still work Tuesday mornings, look after the Ladies Golf League at Foxbridge Golf and Country Club.
Thank you. Are there any others? No? Review of items not listed on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, there was an addendum went out on Friday that had a piece of correspondence, report, and a item for in camera.
Great, thank you very much. Announcements. Why don't we start on this side? Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Right. First of all, what a crazy weekend with weather. You know, our guys did a fantastic job keeping things open. I sent a late night email to kind of to talk to them last night on how they're going to manage to get people out this morning, and quick response from Billy. And anyway, great work everyone, and the fire department as well. Then Haley Smith won a bronze medal in mountain biking at the Commonwealth Games.
Right on.
So she did that, I believe that was on Wednesday, and then she jumped on a plane, flew to California, and came fifth in a U.S. Cup in California. So she's doing a fantastic job, just incredible. And then I had a quick ask. This is not something we talked about with our sign policy, but I think we should make a graphic to congratulate Haley for the sign out by Walmart.
Great idea.
Okay. So should we vote on that?
We'll bring it up a little bit later.
Okay.
When we get down. We'll do it under other business, perhaps.
Okay.
Councillor Barton. Okay.
And I have a couple more quick ones. There was a huge Taekwondo tournament at the high school.
Right.
Kids from all over the place. And so another great addition. Lots of people would have been eating in our restaurants. So good tourism opportunity. And then 100 Men Who Care and the Uxbridge Chamber of Commerce all worked together on Wednesday. $108 for the food bank.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So lots of great stuff happening in our community.
Great, thank you. Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone. It's hard to believe that a week tomorrow we will be stocking the pond with trout for the Huck Finn Day, which is April the 28th. It's a good job that I've still got the auger left from the winter doing the ice so that we can put them in. So just a reminder that Huck Finn Day, and last year we had 1,200 youth at the pond, is on Saturday, April the 28th. The parade starts at 9:30. The actual fishing runs from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Bryan.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of quick announcements. We have the Firefighter Appreciation Dinner this Saturday night. We have the Springtide Music Festival going on all this weekend downtown at different venues, which will be fantastic. And we also have the opening of the Youth Center at the Senior Center on Saturday. So there's three things on Saturday. And just on a personal note, I was honored to give out the Nobby Coppins Award at the Sunday Morning Hockey League on Sunday morning for my father-in-law. So I was very pleased to do that in his memory. It's called the Nobby Coppins Fair Play Award. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Councillor Bryan. Also, we had an opening of a new business in town on Saturday morning, Bluebell Paper and Press. Councillor Barton, Councillor Bryan, and I were all there, so it was a great event, and welcome to that business to our town. I'm sure they'll be a great asset. Friday was a great day. We had Mayor O'Connor sworn in as our regional chair, the first woman ever, and someone that really deserved the position, and I know she'll do a great job of it. Maybe later on this morning, Chief, you could, if you don't mind, maybe you could just, when you come up here, just speak about Andrew Allison's award this week that we're going to on Thursday night as well. That would be wonderful. And, okay, that's it. Mention which? Councillor Beach actually is in Hawaii, and I sent her something yesterday because Oahu was totally flooded yesterday. I think it was 1.5 feet of water on Oahu, and I asked her how she was. She's on another island. And they told her to stay in the hotel. They're not allowed outside. So we got it bad here. They got it pretty bad in Hawaii too. So, and we are waiting Councillor Hyatt, who's having some trouble getting out of his driveway this morning. Alrighty, so, 10 o'clock, we are supposed to have a public meeting, and this meeting is regarding electric sign bylaw. And I would call that public meeting to order, I guess, Debbie, is that what I do? Okay, and should I bring forward the, report? Would somebody like to make a motion to bring forward report CL 2118, Councillor Bryan? All's in favor? Carried, thank you. There's no verbiage, nothing for me to say here. I just asked any questions. Are there any questions on the report? This is, it's regarding our sign bylaw. Only a couple little things have changed in it. One of them, sort of the election sign bylaw. And so now it's 42 days prior to the election we can put our signs up. Other than that, there really isn't very much that's changed on it. Unless, Debbie, you want to speak to it a little bit?
There is, just some of the major changes were more with respect to the third-party advertising that we had to include now that's a part of the new legislation that's come out for this election. Aside from that, there is not a whole lot of changes, as you mentioned already, just with respect to the amount of days it dropped from 45 to 42. Aside from that, there's really not a great deal of change. We did increase the deposit, slightly, but aside from that, that's all there is.
Okay, great. I could have somebody move the recommendation now that we can approve this report. Questions? Councillor Barton?
Yeah, my question was, on the bylaw cost to remove a sign. So at the moment it's 20. I thought it was less than that the last time we did this.
I think it was 5 or 10 before.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it was $10
Okay. And what's the reason for the change?
of the deposit,
Yeah, no, it's of the cost
Fee.
for removal, the fee.
because that was 4 years ago and costs go up. So we're looking at trying to recover costs, on behalf of the taxpayers for people that are violating the sign bylaw.
If he hadn't had to take that small car and got the truck, then he wouldn't be as much. I gotta get the shot in when I can.
Not even go there. Councillor Ballinger, Councillor Ballinger, do you have any questions? No? No questions?
no questions.
Okay, Councillor Bryan.
Just a quick question, Deb. So that doesn't change anything in regard to the bylaw we put in place where signs can only be for the ward you're in? We did that for the last election. That still stays in place?
That's correct. So
Okay.
you would only advertise in the ward that you're running in,
Right, so
except
it's-
obviously the ones that are running at large.
Right. That's fine. Okay, thank you. I'm good with that.
Okay, so, we have the report. Would somebody like to move the recommendation? Councillor Barton? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll just, close the public meeting, turn to our General Purpose and Administration Committee. We have a delegation. Daniel here? I don't see him yet. Okay, we'll carry on then. Okay. We'll start, I'll, call the, Finance and Emergency Services Committee to order. Item 41, under correspondence, is Ministry of Consumer Safety and Correctional Services Re-Alert Ready. I don't know if you're aware of that, but this is a great program the CRTC approved where that, our cellular providers in the area are going to, in the event of an emergency, directly contact you through a text message on your phone, and it's geographic according to the area, and that's, actually it's one of the best things I've seen the CRTC do, quite frankly. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I'll give you a motion to receive, and
Great.
I traveled to the US a lot for work, and this works really well down
That's
there.
fabulous, great
Yeah.
idea. Great, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 42 is from the YWCA. This is request to sponsor the annual Starry Nights event. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, just a question on that. Do we know what we gave last year, or if we
I don't
gave?
think we gave anything last, I think we
Okay.
just received it last
Okay.
year. It's in Oshawa, I think, yeah, it's in Oshawa, so.
So I'll give you a motion to receive.
To receive. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 43, this is regarding WindReach. This is pretty incredible, eh? They've got that RCMP ride there this year, that'll be wonderful. And, what would you like to do with this, council? Councillor Bryan? Receive for information, all's in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 44, Robert Houston, this is Oxford Secondary School, the ceremony. Councillor Bryan?
So I assume we'll give the I would like to make a motion to give the same as last year, for
Great.
the $400.
Great.
I think it's great. I'll be at that graduation, so that'll be fantastic.
Great. All those in favor? Carried. Item number 45, Lee Lou, this is a request to reduce the rent for the Arena Snack Bar, for the months of April and May. This is because they've, minor hockey's decided to do the tryouts in Scugog this year, so there's gonna be quite a void there at the arena. Council, what would you like to do with this? Councillor Barton?
So, I know we've talked about the rates here before. I didn't have the data when I was going through the agenda. What do they pay monthly for rent? What do we think in terms of numbers that will be down? Just, we don't have enough data to go along with just a letter to reduce the rent.
Bob, do you want to come forward, perhaps?
Thanks, Bert.
So currently, for the month of April, they'd be paying, I believe their rent payment is $21.80 for the month. We did lose minor hockey's tryouts to Port Perry. However, the month of April is typically a busy month for tournaments, and we've still retained all of our tournaments. We had the adult tournament last weekend. The Bonner Boy tournament is coming up, as well as the skating carnival. So for the month of August, not a lot has changed. It'll be the month of May where we will see the ice is going to be out in May for this year.
So all the ice will be out, there's a tournament in May, right? Isn't there?
No,
That's it?
all the ice will be out in May.
So will we be charging her rent? What do you want to do, council? We would normally charge her the rent, though, the $2,100 still in May, or is
Yes,
it
we
reduced?
would. Yeah, council, for June, July, August, we reduced the rent to $500 because there's no ice in.
Right.
That was done in the last contract, but now May, there is no ice, so that's where we stand right now.
Councillor Bryan?
I would make a motion, and certainly we cut back reduce the rent in May down to $500. I think that's only fair.
Okay.
If the girl doesn't have any opportunity to make revenue, generate
Question,
any revenue.
Councillor Ballinger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Bob. Bob, what happens with Canadian Tire then, with the skate sharpening and the sale of sticks and stuff? If we reduce the rent to the concession booth, are we gonna do the same thing for the ice skating area?
We haven't received a letter from Pat Higgins yet, but Pat Higgins will be in the exact same situation. They are closed, they will be closed for that month as well.
Councillor Barton, did you have a question?
Yeah, with the men's league tournament and the Bonner Boys tournament, you guys, they serve food for both of those.
Yep.
Through the organization. Would there be enough business on those weekends that it was worth her being open?
Yeah, definitely. When they serve the food in the hall, it's typically like, they don't sell anything that Lee would sell in the snack bar.
Okay.
And we ask any group when they come in and hold a tournament and stuff like that not to sell something that would conflict with what she has to offer. So she still gets all the coffee orders, pop, chips, chocolate bars, and so forth. And yeah, she stays fairly busy through those tournament weekends.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted clarification on that. Thanks, Bob.
So, Councillor Bryan, maybe someone could perhaps make a friendly amendment to that to include Canadian Tire as well, if you're interested. Anybody interested in doing that? Up to you.
Yeah, I was gonna go the other way. I was actually gonna say, you know what, I don't think we should do this. I don't think we should reduce it. My understanding, and I still have all the concessions, she has Port Perry Arena too. So she still gets all the tryouts over there. I'd be careful with this, that's all.
Councillor Bryan?
But if she has the concession in Port Perry, would she not be paying for there as well?
She is.
So she wouldn't be making any money out of this concession stand anyway. So my point is, if she can't generate any revenue from that location, I don't think it's fair to charge her that. Whether she's making in Port Perry or not is relevant.
But she's asking for April and May.
But I had made a motion for May.
Only May is the motion, when there's no ice, correct?
When there's no ice and she has zero opportunity, I think the April is fine because the Bonner Boy, I think, is the last one. So I'm fine with the full rent for April. I think it's just the one in May that should be reduced to $500.
Okay, so we'll call the question, May, and on the amended motion. All's in favor? Carried. This is item 46, regarding Precious Mines. They use our arena hall in the summertime. I'm sure you've all read the letter, so what would you like to do with this? Councillor? Well, let's make the motion first. You wanna make a motion? Would you have a question?
Oh, similar question to the last time, Bob.
Okay.
What was the deal last year? Was it the same price in 2016 and 2017? How does this contract work?
Yeah, so they're asking for the same reduced rate. When they initially come to the arena, they were just using the community center, and they were working kind of hand in hand with our own township camps. That's where the idea come from. It's worked out to be a great opportunity. The kids really enjoy coming there. Staff are proposing actually their rate go to $55 a month, because now they don't just use the arena hall, they use our ice pad every day, as well as they use one of the boardrooms solely for like a quiet room for these children. The program has it's been a great success, but I do think they're using quite a bit more in the building, and $55 a day is more than a reasonable request from us because they're using the ice pad as well.
Councillor Barton?
And maybe I didn't hear you, what's their current rate if you wanna go up to 55?
I believe the current rate is $30 a day, and that's what we charge our own camp staff, our camp programs for our facilities.
Okay.
Have we discussed this with them at all, Bob?
We've reached out to them a couple times, and we haven't heard back from them yet. We've tried all last week to get a hold of them, and we haven't heard anything back, so that's kind of, we're in limbo right now.
Should we maybe send this back with Bob to discuss this with him first before we make a motion on this? Would you mind? Thank you, Councillor Ballinger. Okay. All those these are reports to committees. Do I have any correspondence on the addenda? No? Okay. Reports to committee. This is report number PWO 2418 of Ben Kester. This is regarding delivery furnace oil. Councillor Barton.
Yeah, a couple questions. First one is...
Mr. Kester, could you come forward?
Thanks, Ben. Okay. First one is, how much is this per liter? We just see the full amount of $733,000.
So it fluctuates with the rack price. So the rack price is a standard industry price, and then these people bid so much a liter on top of that to deliver. So it fluctuates, but it's cheaper than anywhere you can get.
Okay. And is it about approximately the same cost as what we pay for colored diesel?
I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
I'd have to look.
Okay, because it's almost the same product, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what would you like to do with this report? Councillor Bryan? I thought you were waving. It's like being at an auction. Your hand was up. Go for it.
Just welcoming Councillor Hyatt. I'll move the recommendation.
Are there any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. Welcome, Councillor Hyatt. This is report number TR 0918, Donna Condon. This is statement of enumeration for council and members of the Committee of Adjustment. Councillor Barton. Received for information. Are there any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is item 2R. This is report number TR 1018, also Donna Condon, regarding return of a letter of credit for Foxbridge. Councillor Ballinger is stepped aside for this one. Councillor Bryan.
I'll approve the recommendation, or support
Any
the
other
recommendation.
questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is report number TR 1118, Sue Strong. This is regarding the BIA budget and the tax we're collecting on their behalf. Councillor Barton.
Yeah, support the recommendation?
Support the recommendation. Are there any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is report TR 1218, Sue Strong again, tax collector. These are the final tax levies for the 2018. Councillor Bryan. With the recommendation, are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is report TR 1318, Donna Condon, Treasurer McGowan demolition agreement, return of security deposit. Councillor Barton.
Support the recommendation.
Support the recommendation. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Carried. This is report TR 1418, also from Donna Condon. This is regarding the solar panels at the arena and the fire hall. Councillor Barton, you have a question?
Yes. So the recommendation is to go with 25% of this project. Are we able to go with a higher percentage?
Go ahead, Donna.
No, the max was 25%.
Okay, it was a couple of years ago, so I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it was a while ago. I think that's why Donna has the report here, just to refresh our memories, what
Yeah.
we talked about a while back, so. Thank you, Donna.
So I'll make the motion to...
Move the
support
recommendation, Councillor Barton. Are there any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is report TR 1518, Sue Strawn. This is update on property taxation changes. Comments? Motions? Councillor Bryan. Are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. Thank you. This is report PWO 2515. This is from Ben Kester. This is regarding our double surface treatment. Questions? Councillor Barton.
Yeah, I can't remember what double surface treatment is. Is that paving asphalt?
It's not hot mix, it's, surface treatment. I can explain it to you after. It's like,
Driveway sealing.
Reed Road.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It's a
no,
slurry seal, right? Is that what it is, Ben?
Yeah.
It's a slurry seal. Yeah.
With the slurry seal on top of it.
Kinda like chip and tar.
That's it.
There we go, thanks.
And it's increased by 8.8% this year. Any other questions, Councillor Ballinger?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to Ben. Ben, there's only one quote here, one tender. That's all you got?
That's all I got. There's really only 2 companies in Ontario that do it. The other guy picked it up, but I don't know, he didn't bid it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, what would you like to do with this report? Councillor High, you have a question?
You can look over here now, so.
Okay.
Ben, what do you attribute the 8.8% increase to? Did they give you an explanation on what that was?
Partially just costs, and I had more of it last year than I do this year.
Is it the cost of the material or the cost to
Material and
transport it?
labor and everything.
Everything together, eh? I don't know how sustainable that is in the long term. Hoping that it's a 1-year glitch and maybe it'll come back down again.
What would you like to do with this, report? Councillor Bryan. Are there any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is report PWO 2618, also of Ben Kester. This is regarding, painting the lines in the parking stalls. Councillor Barton.
First is a comment, 11% decrease, which we don't see very often.
It's nice. For a change.
Yeah, which parking lots are we doing, or which areas, Ben?
We do all of our own, all of our parking lots almost every year. The facilities, we just, we have a look at them in the spring when the snow goes, and if we need them, and then we do them.
Okay. Does that include the accessibility logos? Do we do those every year, or do our staff do that?
Depends on the facility. The ones on the road, we try to do. The region look after theirs.
Okay. Support the recommendation, or...
Making a motion to support the recommendation. Councillor Barton. Are there any other questions? Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, mine kind of builds on what Councillor Barton said. If we could add those, the decal painting, you know what I'm talking about with the new DSA symbol? Line at an intersection, like at a stop sign, is that a separate budget? Stop sign, there's the white one.
That's in there.
That's in there too? Okay, good. Thanks, Ben.
So we have a motion to support the recommendation by Councillor Barton. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. This is report PWO 2718, also from Ben Kester. This is regarding tree planting. Councillor Barton. And then Councillor Hyatt.
Just a couple questions. One is, where are these trees grown? Is that stipulated? Does it have to be Ontario trees?
Ontario, unless they don't grow them in Ontario. There's a couple, there's a few on the list, I believe, that have to come up from the states, northern states.
Okay. And do we know with Carl's Landscaping, was that who was, sorry, Garden Grove, do they get these from the municipality, or no?
You mean from Uxbridge?
Yeah, from Uxbridge?
No.
Okay.
No.
Councillor Hyatt.
These are for street trees that you've taken down for disease or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Are any of these the ash that we took down last year, or
Mostly ash.
most of these are ash, eh? Okay. And is that gonna be it?
Another tender later on in the spring when we see which ash trees that
Like,
are
I know
left.
you have
I think
other-
there's about 100 left.
I know you have other trees like maples or whatever that just get old and
I think there's about
Okay.
100 ash trees left.
100
in
ash
town.
tree? Okay. Are we planning to do that this year?
If
Like
they don't leaf
finish
out,
them?
if they don't leaf out, yes. We'll plant them cut them in the summer and plant them in the fall.
Okay.
Recommendation for this, please. Councillor Bryan.
I'll support the recommendation.
All's in favor? Carried. Report PWO 2818 of Ben Kester, the route and seal. Questions? This, moved by Councillor Hyatt, support the recommendation. All those in favor? Carried. Nothing wrong with decreases. This is unfinished business. Is there anything? Other business. And there are the accounts for March and April. Questions? Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I've got one on the laptop for the elections. It's $1,700, which seems like a lot to me, for an average price laptop. Did we get a competitive bid on this? Is there two? There's two. Oh, that makes more sense, thank you. It seemed about double the cost I would have thought.
Are there any other questions on the accounts? Debbie, I have one question. What are the crests that you ordered? What are they? There was an item on there that were crests. Are they like stickers on cars and that sort of thing? Is that the type of crest they were?
Do you know where they were? Might be the flashes for the uniforms.
Oh, are they for uniforms? Do you know, Donna?
Yeah, I think it's for the bylaw uniforms.
Oh, okay, great, that's all. Any other questions of the accounts? Would somebody like to move them, please? Councillor Hyatt? If there are no other questions, all those in favor? Carried. Press. Questions? Nothing. Same as always. Yeah, who does tourism? Is that you, Gord? Who does tourism? Daniel's here, right? I guess we should go to that. Sorry, Daniel, I see you here. We'll I'll move now to a delegation. We'll see Daniel from Goodwood Cartways. Welcome, Daniel. Morning. Daniel, can you turn your mic on there and start over? Great.
Sorry. Good morning. Daniel DeLeo, President of Goodwood Cartways 5200 Concession 2. I'm here today for a temporary exemption from the bylaw for a special event. The same request that I've made. I think this is the 8th year in a row. Literally, asking for the permission for the same items. If you'd like me to go through it, I'm more than happy. Should I go through it one by one, or probably a better way to do it? Okay. So the main objective is to seek permission from the Township of Uxbridge granting Goodwood Cartways temporary exemption from the bylaw. The requested exemption period would be limited to the duration of our special events, the dates being the Champion Ron Fellows Karting Challenge, which is May 11th to 13th, and then the Eastern Canadian National Championship, May 16th to 20th. And again, these are events that we've run in the past, and our schedule remains unchanged for the last 5 seasons. First exemption, we'd like to erect an improved and certified temporary grandstand. The device is to be approved by the Township of Uxbridge Bylaw Enforcement Officer. Given the nature of these events, public traffic at our facility has increased during these periods. The events attract top karters from across Canada, and it's normal for these participants to travel with family members. Furthermore, with the event being open to the public and or race fans, enthusiasts alike, they like to visit the facility as spectators during these events. So the reasons for the request: controlled traffic flow. With the increased pedestrian traffic, designating a specific area for public access achieves controlled traffic flow in an organized fashion. This is important for public safety and keeps the public from venturing into our restricted areas. And B, public service, with customer service in mind, offering a safe area for the spectators to sit and enjoy the event is something that we look to offer. The second request, add temporary portable washrooms. For the same reasons noted above, increased traffic flow increases the demand from our septic system. Portable rental units are available, and service for these units would be done daily. These units would be placed in strategic areas for public access. And the main reasons, health and cleanliness, which with the increased demand, just to avoid problems with overflow and things of that nature. And then placement in key locations, again, trying to control public, where the public goes and so that they stay out of the restricted areas. Number 3, on-site overnight camping. So camping will be restricted to a specific area on the property, and with the delegation, I think there was an appendix that was attached. So similar to how we've done in the past, given the national nature of these events, participants will be commuting to Goodwood Cartways from across the country. The majority of the participants will be staying at local hotels. We've made arrangements with the Delta in Markham for preferred rate and accommodations for all participants, officials, and or guests. A small group of our participants, normally 10 to 15, own and operate motorhomes. These motorhomes, or toy haulers, often serve dual purpose as they are used to transport their carts and equipment and provide living quarters for these families. The small percentage of our participants who own these types of units often look for the convenience to stay on site at the track. Providing these customers with that convenience would be an asset to the event. There'd be no fee charged by us and to the end user. This would simply be a convenience that we're looking to offer the participants. Again, key reasons for request: convenience and cost control for participants. As mentioned, the overall convenience of allowing participants to stay on site in their privately owned units is the main objective. Furthermore, the convenience would lead to cost control for these participants, which in turn would be good PR for the event. Implementation of the overnight camping program. So all camping to be located in a designated area within the property limits. As laid out in Appendix A, all campers would be parked in Section B. This area will be designated for campers only, and this will ensure that on-site camping is restricted to a small area of the facility. And all campers would be... One of the requirements for the campers will be to sign off. The letter will include, but not be limited to, items such as no campfires, lights out, curfews, noise controls, mandatory fire extinguishers per camping unit, and any other recommendation that the Township Bylaw Office sees fit. And then finally, the fourth and final request is a small provision to the hours of operation. So as per our bylaw, number 75-42, section 14.3, related to allowable hours of operation, we look to the Township to consider the following amendment to the official event days. We're permitted to run currently Sunday, May 13th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, May 19th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, May 20th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So those are the allowable hours out as it sits. And we're looking for consideration to run Sunday, May 13th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, May 19th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday, May 20th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's important to note that these activities on these scheduled days are scheduled to conclude at 5:30 p.m. for all 3 days. The 6 p.m. curfew is simply allowing a little cushion for delays not to exceed the allowable time limits. So again, just to sort of summarize, if you guys don't have a copy, so we're not asking for more hours of operation. We're just asking to change them a little bit so that they can stay consistent throughout the official days of the event. The format for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on-track activities is identical. That's what I was just talking about. So in other words, the structure of warm-up, practice, qualifying, and racing is the same throughout the 3 days. And having these on-track activities scheduled to start and end at the same time point throughout the weekend just makes the event run smoother. And then, similar to the reasons above, traditionally the national schedule is the same from year to year. Furthermore, media participation at trophy presentation, etc., will be much more difficult to coordinate if the schedule changes from day to day. It is important to note that the 4 items requested above come at additional cost to Goodwood Cartways. When considering the first 3 items, a total cost of close to $5,000 per event is anticipated. These requests don't offer us any monetary compensation, nor do they increase sales. The sole purpose of implementing these important features is to increase and control public health and safety.
Thanks, Daniel. That's
No problem.
Great. Questions? Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and at the appropriate time, I would ask that you bring correspondence number 60 on page 206 forward. It has a map of your Goodwood, so everybody can see where the areas are. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the presenter, how much notification and how far do you reach out to the residents in the area?
So, attempt to improve communication from year to year. At the current point, our schedules are published as tentative schedules before the first of the new year. So December 12th is when we published our tentative 2018 schedule, and they have the links to where those schedules are on site. So at the end of it, it's public information, and through conversations, they know where to find the schedule on our website. The challenge that we have, and actually just an apology in advance, normally this delegation is done about a month earlier in the season. But with this lovely weather that we have, we're sort of sitting on the fence saying, when is our karting season gonna start, if ever? And a perfect example of that is even though we published tentative schedule, supposed to be race 1 was obviously canceled. We're sitting here saying race 2 is next week, and is that gonna happen? So, you know, before we can see a clear direction from Mother Nature, it's very difficult to do some of this, the scheduling, and obviously it gets changed as we go forth, right? So the only way for me to really do that is to make changes, make sure it's public and online and for everyone to see, because the schedules are subject to change based on weather.
Thank you for your answers.
Other questions? Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Just a couple of questions. It's a 3-day event, correct?
Yeah.
Now, do the same people come all day, every day kind of thing? Or
Correct, yeah. So when I say it's a 3-day event, there's a couple of testing days leading up to it. When I say testing days, just normal practice days, no different than,
So
you
like
know, any
trials
other day.
and
Trials that,
time
you know,
trials, that kind of
participants are lapping in a more informal setting, if you will. When we get to Friday, that's when the official start of the program starts. And to answer your question, participants that are eligible to take the track on Friday need to be registered in advance, and only those registered participants can participate through the 3 days. So there's no new people coming in and out. It's just a matter of, you know, making sure those people that are there from the beginning have an understanding.
So how many people would come on average per
like
day?
participants or public, like?
I'm just trying to think of the number of people that would be on site.
Yeah, and again, weather is a great determining factor of whether it's well
weather,
attended.
yeah.
A nice sunny day in May means that, you know, we're pretty
Sure.
busy, and then the opposite, if it's raining, not many come out. But you know, a simple way to do this is there's about 160 participants. Each participant travels with families, you know, so maybe you have 1,000 regulars in terms of who's there regularly, and then
Right.
maybe 1,000 spectators that will come if
Spectators.
the weather permits, right?
So do the spectators come each day, or do they only come to the actual race itself?
Same thing. We have, you know, people that know of our facility and are big Goodwood Cartways fans for the last, you know, few decades that look forward to this event every year, and
Yeah.
some of those racing fans will come out all 3 days. Others know that the finals happen on Sunday, and that's
Finals.
traditionally when they come out.
And you only have about, as you say, 10 to 15 motor homes that actually stay on.
Yeah, and again, those are the same motorhomes that sort of move in on the Thursday, park, and then that area is sort of closed off
Do
for the
they
rest
do
of the
like
year.
a circuit? I know you host one event, but
Yeah,
they
yeah, so
kinda
it's a 4-race championship in Eastern Canada, so 2 races are held in Ontario,
Okay.
the other 2 are Quebec, and then the finale, which we don't have this year, is the national championship, and that sort of goes across Canada.
Okay, great. Just one further question, through you to staff. Have we had any noise complaints or issues?
No,
that
I
you're
think
aware of?
it's gone very well.
It's gone well. Okay, great. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Dan, quick question for you.
Yes.
On the camping issue, so the first event on the first weekend, isn't there a gap between the 2 camping events? In other words, if you come the previous Wednesday, you don't stay for...
Correct.
10 days.
And
They
at
stop.
one point, that was something that I think the 3rd or 4th time I came for a delegation, I asked if we can do that just for a convenience standpoint. At the time, we didn't think it was gonna be, you know, the best thing to happen. So campers actually come for that first event, then leave. And a lot of times they're finding their own solution because we can't offer one, and then come back for the next event, which is on
On the
that
Wednesday,
Thursday night,
okay,
yeah.
okay, great.
And it comes with a little bit of level of frustration, especially from the people that are coming from other provinces. What do you mean I can't keep my trailer there Monday and Tuesday, I'm coming back on Wednesday, but,
I know.
yeah.
What about the washrooms, Daniel? How many do you have? You've sorted that out with Brian. I think you guys have this worked out. Is that correct?
Yeah, so, the washrooms on site, you know, at the end of it are enough to satisfy the needs of the event. But again, if we get to a point where it's a nice summer day and you have too many people using them, you know, a few extra porta potties just helps, you know, make the event run smooth.
Okay. Is there a magic number that's required on that, Daniel? Or is...
I don't think so. Like, the washrooms haven't changed the way they are, so I think there's 5 men's stall and 6 ladies stalls, the way it sits, permanent washrooms.
Right.
And then we bring in 4 additional porta potties just for the special event.
Okay. Okay, are there any other questions? Councillor Barton.
Yeah, just on the camping gap, is there a way that we can allow that, just to make it more convenient for his customers, for Daniel's customers?
Music to my ears, but
No, but like,
I
what,
understand.
which bylaw is stopping us from allowing them to keep their units?
It's a zoning bylaw that's stopping them from doing that. This has been going on for a number of years. There's been a lot of issues with some of the local residents there, and that was sort of a compromise that we came to a number of years ago, and That's where it's at.
Yeah, I don't wanna open up a can of
Yeah.
worms, I just...
I don't think
Yeah.
Daniel does either.
No, if there was an easy way to allow it, then I thought we should, but
Yeah,
it's not as simple as I hoped.
yeah, not
Okay.
quite.
No, in all fairness, it's finally getting to a point now that I don't have to explain it over and over again, because participants know that we couldn't do it last year, so, you know, more often than not, it's some of the same families that are coming year after year, and everyone understands the limitations at this point, so it's not as bad as it once was, for sure.
Okay, fantastic, thanks.
Thank you.
Actually, Daniel, it's worked out very well. I know you've worked very, very hard to work with the residents in the area, and you've done a really great job, and
Appreciate it.
keep it up. I think
Awesome.
we get way less calls now than we used to get a few years back, that's for sure. Councillor Ballinger, do you have a motion to bring forward the report?
Yes, I would move that we bring, forward correspondence number 60 on page 206.
Thank you. Are there any other questions with correspondence? Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Barton.
I'll give you a motion to support the recommendations in the report.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Daniel. Good luck. Hope you get some good weather.
Great, thanks.
At this time, I'll turn it over to Tourism, Heritage, and Community Programs to, Councillor Bryan. I believe that's yours.
Thank you very much. I call to order this meeting of Tourism, Heritage, and Community Programs. First item is a piece of correspondence, item number 47. The Ministry of Government and Consumer Services to Bertrand Duclos, Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport, read permission to examine closed parcel registers, copies of documents originally registered in paper, and copies of plans in the registry office. Questions, concerns, comments from councillors? Councillor Hyatt, and then, Councillor Moss.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to staff, did we request this, Debbie? I mean, I don't recall ever seeing this before. Where did this come from?
It's, as far as I understand, it's ministry initiative assisting with research and that type of thing, so it wasn't something we asked for. But it probably was pressure from heritage committees and staff,
Well,
heritage
that's where,
planners.
I guess the first sentence says in reply to your recent request. I don't recall us making a request, so. I'm just wondering where it came from, that's my question, so. So from what I read here, there's no cost to us to do these searches? Is that how I read this?
I think there were costs for,
If you wanted a paper copy, obviously there would be, but to actually go in and title search, okay, thank you.
Councillor Malloy?
no, that's fine. I was just gonna answer that question, that's fine.
What would council like to do with this document? Receive for information from Councillor Hyatt. All in favor? Carried. Next item, item number 48, a letter from Robin Coombs, Chair of Heritage Uxbridge, request to designate 49 Brock Street West in Uxbridge, the CIBC building. Questions, concerns, comments? Councillor Hyatt, then Councillor Malloy.
Do we have
And then
any
Councillor Barton.
correspondence on record from CIBC on this? Does anybody have any? No?
I haven't received anything from CIBC, but there's members of the Heritage Committee that are here. They may have been in correspondence with the bank, I'm not sure.
I just think if we're gonna proceed here, obviously we would need their agreement to do that. I mean, I don't foresee it being an issue, but I would just make sure that they're in the picture here, so.
Okay.
We could request that of staff to obtain that.
Okay. Councillor Malloy, and then Councillor Barton.
When we're finished with questions, I'd recommend that we refer it to staff. There's a few questions here that I think, as Debbie's asked, we refer to them.
Councillor Barton.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. So, when we're designating properties like this, I think it's important that we talk about what is critical and what, as we're designating the building, what we would want to return if there was a fire, if there was damage to the building. You know, obviously the internal makeup of this building is significantly different than it was when it was built. The exterior brick structure, the entrance, the doorways are all critical. It might help with some of the insurance issues that we've heard about from residents. If we break that down and say, we're fine with this being rebuilt in 2018 standards if the facade of the building looks the same after. That type of thing. I think it's important that we break that down moving forward.
So, not anything, Jack? No. Motion to refer it to staff from Councillor Malloy. All in favor? Carried. Next item, report to committee. Report RC 07-18 of Amanda Ferraro, Director of Parks, Recreation, Culture and Tourism. Re Thomas Foster Memorial Masonry. Councillor Malloy.
I think it's a great idea. We've talked about this before, and thank you, Mr. Huntley. I think it'll be great. Yeah, good luck, Amanda. I think it'll work out perfect. I'll make a motion to support the recommendation.
Any other questions? No? All in favor? Carried. Is there any unfinished business? Is there any other business? Any questions from the press? Any questions from the public? Aye, waiting for that hand to go up. Come on up, have a seat.
Good morning, Deputy Mayor, Council, staff. Just to address Councillor Barton's query with respect to rebuilding in case of total loss. Once a building or a property is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act, there's no obligation on the owner to restore the property to its previous standards, build or facade or any of the other finishes. I would come back to Council, Building Department to approve new building requirements. It could go back glass, stone, stucco. That'd be with Council. And to Councillor Hyatt's point, as far as speaking with CIBC, when I was here a little bit over a year ago with the Vintners Nook, it was the general manager of CIBC who had approached me after the meeting, and it suggested that the Heritage Uxbridge, put forward the building for designation. They were coming up to their 100-year anniversary, so something that we were encouraged to do at the time. I don't believe it's anything that we've had other correspondence with CIBC since, and again, once again, nor is it a requirement under the Ontario Heritage Act, although Council may ask Heritage Uxbridge for those types of undertakings. It's seeking permission from property owners, whether commercial or residential, is not a requirement of the Act or nor a requirement of Council. And unless there's any other questions, I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
your input.
Thanks.
All right, no other further questions or comments. I will close this meeting of Tourism Heritage and Community Programs. Turn it over to Councillor Ballinger for Parks, Facilities and Arena.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Reports to committee, report PRO 8/18. Mr. Ferguson, would you come up, please? Maybe, Bob, you'll just run through this report to Council.
Okay, just to make one quick correction to the report. It says in my report here that we received a $20,000 donation, 10,000 coming from Healthy Kids Grant and 10,000 coming from Canadian Tire. We actually received a $20,000 donation from Canadian Tire and $10,000 from the Healthy Kids. So we had a total of $30,000 come in that was spent last year. Just wanted to make that clear. And so we've been approached by Pat Higgins again this year, and he'd like to make another $10,000 donation to expand on the fitness equipment that is in the park. We do work, when we add equipment to the park, we do work with the user groups, like the Fall Fair and stuff like that, to make sure where we're placing the equipment doesn't interfere with the events they run. A couple recommendations that we've had from the users of this fitness equipment and so forth is placing the equipment so there's two pieces of equipment side by side, because when people are out walking together, one person does their exercise while the other person stands there, so they thought of having two pieces side by side would work better. So there will be, we'd like to add more equipment, but it'll be in the same locations as the existing equipment.
Thank you. Questions to Mr. Ferguson. Councillor Hyatt, please.
Yeah, thank you, through you to Bob. You kind of touched on my question, Bob, as to where, like, you obviously have in your mind sites for these.
Yeah, they'll go right beside, so there's 5 stations right now.
5 now, yeah.
They'll go right beside the piece of equipment where they'll be in the same station, same area.
Okay. Do you arrange them by exercise, if I can use that word, or are they just randomly placed kind of thing?
Randomly placed from what we started out with. Yeah.
So you don't do upper body and then kind of move down, or vice versa? There's none of that going on?
No.
It's just random? Okay.
Yep.
I think this is great. Mr. Uxbridge has again stepped up to the plate here. I mean, we can't thank him enough for the stuff that he does, but I think this is awesome. And the sooner they're in, do you have a time frame on when these would be?
We've already talked to the supplier, Norwell Equipment,
Okay.
who supplies them with us. There's about a 6-week delivery time
6
from the
weeks.
time we place the order.
So it'll be this summer
Oh yes, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll move the recommendation, Mr.
Okay.
Chair, unless there's any other questions.
Yeah, weather dependent.
Any other questions from Councillor Barton, please?
Thanks, Councillor Ballinger. Do you have an idea of what you're hoping to purchase with this additional funds from Mr. Higgins?
Yeah, the new piece that we're looking at is an air walker. So it's one of those ones that you stand on. It's got the pole bars that go with your feet. So they call it an air walker. And the other one is a leg press.
Fantastic.
So all of these pieces of equipment too, they basically work off of your own body weight. So they try and reduce the amount of moving parts, and all resistant depending on your own weight.
Chair Malloy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a quick question. Yeah, what would we do without Pat Higgins? How many times do we say that? It's fantastic, the money that he donates and contributes to us. One quick question. Is there a set of all of these? Like, if we have 15 pieces, are there 20 pieces to the set? I'm just curious.
There is a number of different sets, and what we purchased last year was actually a set.
Oh, okay.
That was a beginner set or whatever. It come with the initial sign outlining what each piece of equipment does and stuff like that. So the last year was an actual set, so we're just adding to it.
Great.
Yeah, there's a
20
number.
sets?
There's a number of different pieces of equipment. No,
20 pieces.
different. Yeah, there's a lot. Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Councillor
Thank you,
Bryan,
Chair.
please.
I would like to move this recommendation and certainly make sure that we acknowledge Pat Higgins on this. I think this is tremendous. Oh, I asked Debbie to
Already
move.
moved.
Okay, never mind.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay, the recommendation is moved by Councillor Hyatt. All of those in favor? And that's carried. Unfinished business? Okay, other business. It's nice to report that a while ago that we put in 11 Vimy oak saplings throughout the community of Uxbridge in strategic places to represent the 100 years, the Great War. I'm pleased to say the plaques are done. Mr. Ferguson has the plaques. When the weather is conducive, we will put rocks at each one of the saplings, and we'll put a plaque on it. So it'll depend on the weather. Is there any other questions under other business to Bob?
Just on that point, Jack,
Yes.
are you planning to do like a launch? Can I use that word? Like an actual plaque ceremony, or is there? Or are you
Good.
just going to put them on and then hope people?
You know
see
what?
them?
That's a good question, Mr. Hyatt. We'll think about that.
Maybe if I can suggest doing one in a great location,
Yep,
and then do
it's a good idea.
ceremony, if I can use that word.
That's a good idea. Thank you
You're welcome.
for your suggestion. Okay, any questions from the press? Roger?
Yes, Councillor, through you to Mr. Ferguson. Could you repeat, please, what the two pieces of equipment are that are going to go in?
Yes, the first one is an air walker, and the second one is a leg press.
A leg press?
Leg press, yep.
And how many pieces of equipment does that now bring it up to?
7.
7.
7, yep.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, thank you for your kind attention. I will now conclude this session and pass it over to Councillor Barton with Sustainability Watershed and the Conservation Committee.
Excellent, thank you very much, Councillor Ballinger. Actually, Bob, before you leave, can you email the press the two pieces of equipment that you're going to get in case they're ready to start a story? Great. Thanks, Bert. All right, I'll open this meeting of Sustainability, Watershed and Conservation. I'm going to start with correspondence number 49. This is from the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority. We have the 2018 Conservation Award nominations. Yes, Councillor Moore.
These are really prestigious awards. One of them is the Richardson Award, and David, who actually is a resident in our community, and actually both awards are named after residents of Uxbridge, so the two major ones. So it'd be great if we could support this, and I just want to suggest that perhaps we put it on the town page and send it to Watershed and Uxbridge Naturally, whatever groups we have in town for input.
Fantastic. Is that a motion, Councillor Miller? Okay. Yes, Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, I guess you would probably know and about the activities of the Watershed Committee. Are there any people or projects on there that we could nominate for this? I mean, I love blowing our own horn when it's due.
Yeah.
So I'm going to defer to you if there's anything that you think would be on that list that we could use.
Well, certainly there's lots of tree planting activity that takes place with the Watershed Committee. they do kids programs.
I
They're
know
gonna
the
do the
March
Brook Never
break one
Sleeps
they
again.
do is great,
Yeah.
you know, the.
Yeah, well, it's gonna
But
happen later in the year.
something like that, I'm
Yeah.
just using that as an example. but-
Yeah, so the March break, the Brook Never Sleeps is gonna be later in May,
Yeah.
which was a great idea because the brook was fairly frozen.
Would you mind looking through the files and see if there's something that we could nominate for this? That'd be
Yeah,
great.
actually, what we're gonna have another meeting quite soon, so
Great.
we'll bring this up then.
Awesome.
And for Earth Day, we're gonna do a cleanup around the trestle brush.
Because I think the intake's open till mid-June, so it gives you a month and a bit. Thanks, Dave.
Perfect, thanks. Anyone else? Okay, let's vote on Councillor Malloy's, motion. All those in favor? All right, that was passed. Okay, the next item is item number 50. This is from Helen Malcolmson from the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, Source Protection Programs Branch, Regulatory Decisions, Clean Water and Safe Drinking Water Act. Yes, Councillor Malloy.
There's a lot of questions on this. I'd like to make a motion, refer it to staff. There's all kinds of information we need for the permitting process and that sort of thing, so if we could refer it to staff.
Okay.
Well, I think there's a requirement here to come up with a permit process in it somewhere, so we have some work to do on it. Whether it's a report, probably a report at some point in time.
Okay, Councillor Hyatt.
If I'm not, through you, if I'm not, wrong, Ingrid, I think a lot of this falls under when we do pre-cons and that sort of thing. When Lake Simcoe shows up and source water protection, all the guidelines have to be followed. So I don't know what report we're seeking, but I mean, it's being done anyway, so maybe you give us a summary as to what's going on, so. All right, thanks.
In your spare time.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of Councilman Malloy's motion? Okay, that's passed. Okay, the next one is any unfinished business? Any other business? Okay, item number 98, or page number 98, this is from the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, with the 2017 Lake Simcoe Watershed Plan Implementation Report. What would we like to do with this? Councillor Hyatt.
I guess I'm gonna ask Councillor Malloy, because he sits on Lake Simcoe. I know there's been a huge push on to get the chlorides reduced. Can you give us sort of a summary of where they're going with this? And it kinda talks about it here, but it doesn't really get into anything.
Well, I think what's really been discussed a lot is that when you get right down, everything gets fixed in the design stage. That's so important.
Right.
And what you often see in large parking lots, particularly commercial areas, malls and that sort of thing, is that you'll have catch basins in the corner of the property. Well, one of the problems is they shove all the snow over that corner of the property, and
goes down.
all of a sudden, that's the worst place to put it, because all the salt's going directly in the catch basin, directly into our water stream. So a lot of it has to do with design. Make sure it's designed right in the very beginning, including things like snow removal and salt. Those are the big issues, so it's all about getting it done in the design stage.
Because really, from a toxic point of view, this has far more implications than phosphorus does, although phosphorus causes, we know, the bloom in algae and all that stuff.
Yeah.
This is actual poison when you have chlorine in high concentrations, so
Yeah.
if they're gonna do anything, tackle this one, and then, not saying not tackle phosphorus, but at least address this, because it's been an issue, and it's accumulating more and more and more.
Yeah.
It doesn't just disappear, it continues to be a problem, so. Anyway, I'm glad they're tackling it,
Yeah.
but it's gonna take a long, long time, so.
Well, and I think good design for phosphorus goes along with good design for removing salt from
Everything.
everything. So it's fantastic that we've learned as much as we have on proper planning and design, so. Right, any other questions or comments? Okay, so all those in favor of receiving this report? Okay, that's carried. All right, I am gonna close this meeting of sustainability any questions from the press? Moya? We could go outside and ask Roger. I'm gonna close this meeting of sustainability and conservation and watershed and pass it over to Public Works. Mr. Bryan.
Thank you, Councillor Barton. Call to order this meeting of Public Works and Operations. First item is a piece of correspondence, item 51. York Region, four-way stop at intersection Ravenshoe Road and Regional Road 1. Councillor Ballinger, first out of the gate.
Yeah, just a motion to receive it. At Good Roads, Ben and I sat down with Chairman Emerson and kind of went over everything and what our concerns were.
Any other questions, comments? We have a motion to receive for information. All in favor?
Just a second question.
I'm sorry, Councillor Barton, sorry.
I'm just wondering what was from that conversation with,
Well, the biggest, I don't mind answering this, and Ben can correct me if I'm wrong, but as I recall it, one of the biggest concerns we had was, how people were notified, including our town. And how, in this case, Ben did know something, but he was told not to say anything about it till the right time. So we were concerned that the residents and everybody got notified really almost after the fact.
Yeah.
That's the concern, and Ben, you can add to that or subtract it.
Okay. And then just to comment on this, I went up during the height of the ice storm up to Eudora just to see how things were going with that intersection, and I was pleasantly surprised that there weren't cars stuck on the hill. For the most part, people were able to get through that intersection, and now people weren't coming to complete stops, but that's probably wise to stop on a hill. So anyway, people were getting through, and I've had fairly positive feedback about that intersection from about a third of the people.
All right, we have a motion to receive. All in favor? Carried. Next item, item 52 from ACOM, RIA Notice of Study Commencement, Lind Creek Master Drainage Plan Update, Municipal Class Environmental Assessment. Councillor Malloy, first out of the gate.
I'll just, receive this. Really, the Lind Creek really doesn't impact our township. I don't know if it even touches our township, to tell you the truth, but really has no impact on us.
Councillor Barton?
Yeah, would you take a friendly amendment and send a copy to the Watershed Committee?
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Carried. Next item, item number 53, letter from Bev Northeast, concerns regarding speeding through Goodwood. What would council like to do with this letter? Councillor Malloy?
Actually, Ingrid and I have been working on a few of those issues. Some of them have been, dealing with, Lafarge regarding the sweeper, creating a dust bowl, and we're trying to work on it. So, this has been going on for a long time, and Ingrid has done a lot of work on this already with Lafarge, and we've dealt with the access and all those sorts of things, so we're working on it. Do you wanna say something, Ingrid, about it?
That meeting needs to get coordinated with the region in regards to being able to place those speed signs on regional roads. That still has to happen. It would be very important, I think, to get those signs, especially in Goodwood. I know you have speeding in other places, but 21 and 47 on both entrances into Goodwood, there is considerable truck traffic and car traffic, and to me, that would be something to consider.
Councillor Barton?
So, in regards to, she mentions community safety zones and photo radar. Where are we at with that, with the ruling on that? Can we actually put up photo radar now as a municipality in, community safety zones? I think we can too, but
I believe the legislation's passed. I'm not sure, maybe someone can correct me, but I understand it's passed.
Councillor Hyatt?
Councillor Barton asked one of my questions. I think we need to move forward with that. Also, Ben, I know DRPS and MTO does those periodic spot checks on trucks. Is there a schedule? Do they do it randomly? How do they decide where and when they're going to do these things, or do they?
We get one, maybe two a year.
Because I know at least when MTO did it was it last year or the year before? They pulled in like a ton of trucks and impounded them because they were unsafe. I mean, you know, to speak to what this letter talks about, if we can get those trucks at least off the road, it would be huge from a safety point of view. As well, maybe if you're talking to the traffic officer at DRPS, maybe they know Goodwood's a hot spot. You know, put more guys there, or gals, if you will, and get, you know, it's like shooting fish in a barrel sometimes, you know, and unfortunately people need to be fined again and again and again sometimes before they get it. So if we can ramp up the enforcement here, that would be great. So thanks, Ben.
Councillor Malloy?
Sorry, just a quick question for Ben. Ben, when are we putting up those speed boards? Are we putting some up, or are we waiting for the region to give us permission?
We have the one on Elgin Park Drive.
It's going up in Goodwood?
No.
I know we talked about this a few months back. There's one there already, right?
There's one on 21.
On 21? And there's nothing else going up there?
I can check with the region.
we have money in, I believe we put money in the budget for a speed sign, and I think that that's the discussion that needs to happen with the region. It may not be necessarily that the region has to pay for the sign, but whether, if we can buy the signs, whether it can be our signs being placed on regional roads. I think that is what, Mayor O'Connor, when she was still here, was requesting, is that that also be looked at. If the region doesn't have the funds this year and we've got money, maybe it has to be a joint effort.
So it would just be an approval factor from them. Okay. Councillor Ballinger.
Yeah, I would expect that shortly, once the weather breaks, that we will be seeing in all our hamlets the tiger teeth. Last time I talked with Commissioner Siopis, it looked like it was a go to put it in all our hamlets to calm down the traffic.
All right, what would sorry, Councillor Barton. Sorry, buddy.
No problem. Okay, so just with the conversation in regards to photo radar and community safety zones, can we, I'm going to ask that we have a report from staff on our options with that come forward, because we all know that there might be something possible, but we're not exactly sure what our power is there. So photo radar in community safety zones. So we fully understand what our options are there. And then, has anyone ever brought up a crosswalk right in front of Anina's in Goodwood? There used to be one? Yeah, but with flashing lights, so it worked when there wasn't a crossing guard there?
Nobody's brought it up to my knowledge.
Okay. Because we do see those on regional roads in other locations. Okay, then let's add that to the report and see what our options are there. I know it's a regional road, so we would have to get permission from...
Okay, and what would council like to do with this letter
So
from Bev Northeast?
if you want them to look into that,
Yeah.
just pass a resolution right now and we'll send it off.
Yep.
Would you like to make that motion, Councillor
Sure,
Barton?
I'll make that motion. Yep.
All right, we have a motion from Councillor Barton on that. All in favour? And what is council's wish to do with this carried? And what is council's wish to do with this letter for Bev Northeast? Motion to receive?
Motion to receive.
Councillor Ballinger, all in favour? Carried. Next item, item number 54, Gregory Levine, request to install a four-way stop at the intersection of Dominion Street and First Avenue and Dominion and Second Avenue in Uxbridge. Councillor Ballinger?
Well, we had them there before, and we removed. So, have we had any kind of accidents or anything happening there?
Not to my knowledge.
This
You
is
also-
Mr. Hyatt's ward, so I'd like to hear what Mr. Hyatt has to say.
Periodically, I get requests for this. Again, I think I've asked Ben in the past to get some statistics on accidents at those intersections, and I don't think there was any, if I recall. Maybe I need to be corrected on that. At Second and Dominion, I can see possibly. We've looked at changing the orientation of these signs. In other words, it used to be stop in one direction, then we changed it at 90 degrees to see if that would make any difference, and noticeably it didn't. The issue at First Avenue is you come up that little dip up from Main Street, and I think we discussed this before, Ben, as to how would we have a stop sign at the top of that hill? Or if you know where I'm talking about when you come in
Brings
off of
back
Main.
memories of Eudora.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, well, I know that DRT is using that now as part of their route, so there's kind of a few balls in the air. Maybe we should refer this back to you, I think, and get the updates, but there were issues as to why we couldn't do it, or if we did it, it would create more issues than not. So I'm going to make a motion that we refer this back to Ben.
Councillor Malloy, and then Councillor Barton.
And as the letter suggests, there's been numerous accidents at that intersection. But yeah, it's brutal to go back to these. Do we put stop signs in or not put stop signs in? It doesn't matter what we do, we lose, it seems, because we get differing opinions all the time. My question is very quick. I know there's a regional rule as far as four-way stop signs are about 400 cars an hour or something like that. I don't remember the number exactly. We don't have one though, do we, in the township? Do we have any criteria? Specific?
There's one that's used.
Is that the same one the region uses?
Basically.
Okay. All right, thanks.
The other thing you have to remember is that you put money in my budget to look at yield signs
Yeah.
and that with the view of taking some of these stop signs out.
I know.
Councillor Barton?
Yeah. So just in response to Councillor Hyatt's point, the stop sign right now is at the top of that hill. So if you turn onto Dominion and go up, there's a stop sign. At first, it's actually not a stop sign the other direction. So
There's no continuity, and
Yeah.
and we played with this now for a few years, so why First Avenue is the way it is, to me, that's one that needs to be dealt with. Second, we had a four-way. The issue was very few people were stopping. So again, it's an enforcement thing. If you could put a stop sign on every corner, unless you have enforcement to make that happen, people are just gonna fall by their old habits. That's part of the issue, so.
Yeah.
And it does service that west end rather, of Barton Farms too, so.
Yeah, the positive with a four-way stop, I know there's some negative environmental effects, but the positive is two people have to make a mistake to collide.
No, I
That's-
totally agree with
yeah.
what you're saying. And I'm not on the side of taking out stop signs unless you have a very valid reason for doing so.
Yeah.
And there are locations where they are redundant. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have a motion before us. All in favor? Carried. Next item, report to committee. Report CAO 0518 of Ingrid's Wellness. CAO, recommittee appointment and terms of reference, active transportation. Questions, concerns, comments? Councillor Barton, you look like that hand's going up.
It is. I'm struggling to ask this question, but it's just the thing that's a little bit interesting to me is the two councillors that voted against receiving funding for active transportation and a cycling plan are now in the active transportation committee, which I think is great that you guys are drinking the Kool-Aid. I really wish you'd changed your minds like 8 months ago.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I'm surprised your name wasn't, I don't know why your name wasn't on, to tell you the truth. I thought you would have been on it for sure.
And
Did you forget, or
No.
did you not want to be on it?
no, so I felt like I've been the one preaching active transportation, through my entire term here.
Yeah.
I wanted to see some other names on it so that I wasn't fighting this alone. I thought
Okay.
that a couple people on this committee and that I could help. It's great that it's you guys. It's just surprising to me that you've picked this up. That's all.
Well, we have approved active transportation stuff in our budget recently. We've already approved this, so we do support it. We just didn't have the correct information when it first came forward. That's all I think that all came down to. And I think one of the great things about it was, after meeting with Phil and discussing with Phil, I think he's got a great direction to go. So I think it's going to be a very positive committee.
Great. I'm very happy that I won't be alone. Well, not totally alone, but that I'll have some more help on this.
Go ahead, Ingrid.
Yeah, the
Oh,
only
who's
other
doing this?
thing is we have not appointed a staff member yet to the committee. So that is, that's not known yet. My name was associated with it only because I was gonna ensure that the group of volunteers would get a terms of reference for appointment with a new council. And that's what I will do, is I will set up a meeting. The only other thing is I've got other people now emailing to find out whether they can be involved. So it's becoming, I'm not sure how big it can become, but at this point, it's really a short-term exercise. The official appointment will be for the next council.
What would council like to do with this report? Councillor Malloy.
Move the recommendation.
All in favor? Carried. Moya?
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify on the Goodwood speeding. Ingrid was talking about, speed signs. Were you referring to the speed boards that show your speed? Is that, or?
Yeah, similar to, well, you may not have seen the one, but they're on Lake Ridge Road,
Okay,
like the ones
Yes.
that would flash, yeah.
okay.
So, and I will say, the ones in Eudora are even more finicky. They flash if you go 1 kilometer over the speed. It flashes at you and you have to slow down,
Okay.
because I know. Because I tested it, because I was at 51, it was flashing, and then I dropped down to 50, and then it was settled down.
Okay. And is that the same as photo radar? I heard photo radar mentioned a couple times.
Photo radar is different. It actually will take a photograph of a license plate if you speed, right?
And then would that be enforceable? Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw photo radar somewhere in the region not too long ago.
I can speak to that. It is enforceable.
From experience?
From experience. You get a notice in the mail,
Okay.
and surprise, there you
Oh,
go.
okay.
So it is enforceable, and you don't have much of a choice, so I've heard.
So would that be a municipal initiative, or that be something you would ask the region to do on that road? Like, would you be paying for a photo radar?
The council will get a report back from the region, and the region will explain options, and I think probably within that report, the region may say that something like photo radar may have to be budgeted for. I would assume that the cameras infrastructure that goes with them is gonna cost a little bit of money, but maybe, Jack, you know more, right?
Yeah, this came before Public Works before at the region, and it was turned down. They didn't want the photo radar. Now, what they've got is, and they've talked about it, is just in community zones. Now, whether or not they're gonna do it, that's debatable. The question's been asked, I believe, was by Ajax, whether if the region didn't wanna do it, whether or not they could do it on their own. And that's something that's being checked out.
Okay. And I know you mentioned something, I didn't quite catch it, about something the region would be doing once the weather broke.
The region will.
I thought you said there was something the region might be
Yeah,
doing.
tiger's teeth. I don't know whether you're aware of them or not, but you see them. If you were to go north of Uxbridge, you'll see them as we come to the fields of Uxbridge, the white lines coming in, they look
yeah.
like teeth.
Okay.
Well, we've asked, actually it came from Councillor Malloy, if we could have them done on all the hamlets. And so I took that forward to the region, and last I heard, it was looking good.
Okay. So it would be at the entrances to hamlets, or would that be decided later, where they would be?
Yep.
Okay. And sorry, just on the speed boards, I know, Ingrid, you mentioned both 47 and 21, the two entrances to Goodwood. Would that be the plan to have them at both, or to?
I think my only comment was really that there's a lot of traffic on both 21 and 47 coming into Uxbridge.
Okay.
And I know when Bev was on council, her concern was people coming down into the hamlet from the hill on the east side of Goodwood. They'd come in, and there's no stoplight for quite a way, and what would happen is they'd be coming down that hill still doing a pretty fast speed.
Right.
And then it drops quickly down to a 50, and by the time people hit the 50, they might be well past the Ninas before they actually start to slow down. So that's always been our concern.
Okay. And so at this point, those are just requests that will be going to the region to see if you can do something there? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's well known. It's all well known everywhere. If you
Yeah.
want to write a lot of tickets, just sit in Goodwood.
Okay. And the other thing was, sorry, I just missed what the motion was on the correspondence regarding the Dominion stop signs.
I believe it's going to be a report back to staff.
Referred to staff? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Roger?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Councillor Bryan, Debbie's just pointed out to me that the actual motion reads, and Debbie, if you'd like to read it for us, just so we're clear what we're asking staff for.
Okay, so the correspondence from Bev Northeast was received by Councillor Ballinger. Then Councillor Barton moved a motion to refer to staff for a report on photo radar in community safety zones, and that a crossing be looked at to be installed on 47 adjacent Anina's Bakery. There was nothing about speed signs.
I thought it was all four things going to the region.
Is it too late to do a friendly amendment now? I can certainly add that to my motion.
Do a separate motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to request speed signs at both entrances on the regional road, so Highway 47 and Highway 21, to have speed signs at those locations, provided by the region.
Radar speed signs.
Radar speed signs, thanks.
All in favor of that motion? Carried. Moya, you're done. Over to Roger. Okay. Roger?
Following up on Moya's questioning, is there any way at all that this council knows how many times the Durham Regional Police set up even just a radar stand somewhere in Uxbridge? Because I would like to say that you can speed on just about any road in Uxbridge Township with impunity. Never see a radar unit in Uxbridge. Never.
I can speak to that on a personal note, Roger. I didn't get a ticket this
Oh, thank
time,
God you
not for
didn't.
this. I was walking, quite honestly, I was walking to McDonald's with my wife one morning, and I saw a policeman turn around and catch a girl driving back the other way. So I have literally seen one. It was nice that I was walking and no, I wasn't driving, but thanks for the vote of confidence. So they are there, but I'm not so sure if that was a speed trap or if that was somebody just catching them by the way. Jack?
The number one place in Uxbridge itself is going out Reach Road, is going towards Port Perry. Be very careful when you get to the golf course, the South Golf Course. The laneway that takes you to the driving range, that's where they sit. And I have actually witnessed, the last time I saw it was a young lad going to work at Foxbridge. His mother was driving him. And all of a sudden the police come into the parking lot. And mother got charged for speeding. And I've noticed on a number of occasions they sit right in there. Now I don't know whether you travel Reach Road or not, Roger, but be careful.
And that boy probably walked to work for the rest of the summer. Councillor Malloy?
The other thing, Mr. Chair, I just, I think we've got to realize, and I've come to realize it with the police, when we need them, we call them, they're there. When you look at the land mass, and I'm going to say land mass right now, between north of 7 and south of 7, where we have Skugog, Brock, and Uxbridge, we have 54% of the land mass. We have 1/8 of the population. When you go down the other side, you have 610,000 people in 5 of the communities to the south. The police, so much time is taken up down in the southern part of Durham region. I'm not giving excuses, I'm just saying that they can't be everywhere at once. But if we request it, we'll get it.
Councillor Malloy?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Councillor Ballinger, because I spoke to the police a number of times last year, and we often hear people say, I've called the police, they don't do anything. Call the police, they don't do anything. They don't get a lot of calls. We complain, a lot of people complain, but they don't make the call. And I can tell you, when you do make the call, they do come and check it out. I know there's been a number of the concession roads outside of town that the last year I saw them on 4 or 5 times last year, just on the routes I happen to be traveling. But it's interesting, when I did speak to the duty officer, they don't get as many calls as people say. People say, I've called them 10 times, and you look and say, in the last week we got 1 call. So if people are worried about speeding, it doesn't hurt to call them. The squeaky wheel does work, but you got to call them and complain.
Councillor Barton?
Yeah, a couple things. Over this winter, there's been at least 2 cars that were repossessed or taken by the police for going over 50, over the speed limit. One was in Linksdale and one might have been on York-Durham line or something. But that's happened a couple times in Uxbridge. I've seen the tweets coming from the DRPS. And then, like the other councillors have stated, when we need them, there's a huge number of police officers that show up. When the gentleman went missing from Butternut, there was police all over the place, the helicopters here. It is nice to be part of an organization as large as the DRPS when we need manpower, because they certainly send everything they've got.
On a personal note as well, because all my stories are personal. Roger, we had a gentleman parked in front of our house a few years ago. He was just sitting there, and it was kind of weird and creepy, and it scared my daughter. So I called the police. They were there in 3 minutes rapping on this guy's window, saying, what are you doing here? So you know what? I've got nothing but the utmost respect for them for their timely responses. It's the only time, I knock on wood, I've only ever had to call the police, and they were there very quickly, and it made my daughter sleep better at night. So I was pleased with that.
If I may just, on Wednesdays, I deliver the Cosmos, and I have to drive down to Mississauga to pick it up, and I drive all through York region, and then through Uxbridge and north here. When I'm in York region, you want to believe I watch the speed limit, because the York region police are all over the place. Last time I got a speeding ticket was in York region. When I'm back into Uxbridge Township, I never worry. Now that's probably not a good admission to make,
Going to put that in
but
the
I
paper?
don't have to worry about running into a radar trap in Uxbridge. I just don't have to. They're never there. York region, you never know where they are.
Well, we can certainly set that up. I can give him a call this morning for when you're coming back. Thanks, good point, Roger. Absolutely. Any other questions? All right, I will close this meeting and pass it over to Finance and Councillor Hyatt.
Well, that would be planning, but anyway, thank you, Councillor. I'll call to order Planning and Economic Development Committee. Correspondence 55, this is from an MPP regarding respecting municipal authority over landfill sites. Questions, Councillor Barton?
I would support this. I agree with this gentleman.
Okay. Any other questions? You making that motion, Councillor Barton? Motion of support? Yep. There was a resolution there as well, yeah. Did you want to move that as well? Yep. Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
So we're sending that in.
56, President of Pine Valley Packaging, regarding building permit delay. Questions? Councillor Malloy.
I'm just wondering who the delay was. Was it conservation? Was it our building permit staff? I don't know what was the delay? Does anybody know?
How about neither?
Oh well, that was my third option. I guess.
They're trying to work through their permitting stuff with Conservation Authority. My understanding is their consultant has handed over the final pieces of information. We've been pushing on our end, on both sides, their consultant and the Conservation Authority. I think his point is just, it's continued red tape through the system with the amount of process and expectations that this needs to be met and that needs to be met. And I think that's his point. He's a business owner and he wants to do business in Uxbridge, and it just, with all of the layers of legislation and all of the things that people have to go through, it's no wonder sometimes they don't do anything.
So would that be at our level, or regional, or CA? Who are we talking about here?
Right now it's with the CA and with their consultant.
Okay. So it's not Township of Uxbridge issue. Okay. All right. Councillor Malloy? Yep, go ahead.
Just, this might be a great example to take this particular case. I know it's a ton of work, but it might be a great example to take this case and see exactly what he did go through, and see if there's somewhere down that path that we can make some changes. Because, I mean, we don't know all of the processes that were gone through. We're not sure where he got hung up. He could have got hung up on 10 different places. But I think it'd be nice to see the chronological sort of order of what happened and see if we can resolve that somehow in the future. He makes a great point. He's paid a ton of money, and I'm not laying any blame on anybody, but it certainly would be good for us to sort of review that process and see where it got bogged down. Maybe if it's all conservation, then we'll go to conservation, but let's find out where it bogged down. Would that be reasonable to ask?
Well, on that point, and maybe you want to make a specific motion to this, but the Economic Development Advisory Committee has been interviewing various businesses and getting this sort of feedback from them, and they will be making a report to council before the end of term so that we will know all facing the same kind of issues. Is it red tape? Is it delays? Whatever it is. So they will be bringing that to us, and then maybe we can act on it in a general perspective if it is something that we are responsible for. If not, then obviously that we can refer it to the region or the CA or whoever else needs to get their act together. So just so that you're aware of that, it will be coming forward. So how do we want to deal with this correspondence, Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I agree with this business owner. And I agree with Councillor Malloy. We need to take a look at where the bottlenecks are here so that we can make things go faster in the future. And certainly I know it's not all us, and it probably might not be us at all.
But we
just to be able to go forward. A lot of these businesses grow very, very quickly. So when they finally decide it's time to expand, it's because they're trying to catch a part of their market. And if they miss it, they may not. You know, metals have gone up. The budget changes as they go as well. So I think it would be important that we have a report come back to council that we can look at on how to improve the efficiency of this department to serve our businesses better.
Ingrid, do you want to speak to that?
I can do that, but I am hesitant to report on inefficiencies of people who don't work for this corporation. I'm not necessarily sure that that's what I want to do. I do know where the bottlenecks are, and I do know where things kind of went off the rail, because I did actually speak to their consultants, to the Conservation Authority, and to our staff here. I can do a report, but I mean, I'm not really sure that that's the appropriate forum for me to come back and say, this person dropped the ball, this person dropped the ball. I'm not sure. I would rather have a conversation with the Conservation Authority or with their consultant or with our staff and say, here's the situation, we've got to do a better job. I'm just not sure in a public forum with a report is the right thing.
Okay.
So did you want to change your motion, Councillor Burton?
Yeah, how about, and this is for you to Deb, could this be in camera? Because it's about personnel. I don't know.
Well, I think we've heard, Dave, that it's not. And I can see where Ingrid's going to. She doesn't want to start pointing fingers and saying that, you know, you dropped the ball or you dropped the ball when it's not a Township of Uxbridge thing. So I think we have to be careful there. But at the same time, we need to address this gentleman's issue. So
Right.
if Ingrid wants to follow up, maybe your direction would be that staff follow up with Mr. Richards and see if his situation can be resolved, at least from the Township point of view, and then maybe make recommendations that he pursue with the other avenue.
So I'm already dealing with this situation. I wanted to put this on the agenda to at least make you aware of some of the level of frustration that can happen out there in the development world that we deal with. The situation is being managed. I'm pushing where I need to push to get things to move. And aside from that, there's really not much more I can do. Mr. Richards keeps I'm informed, and I'm keeping tabs on his consultant and also on the Conservation Authority to try to push this thing to the end. I think he just wanted council to be aware, and it's not just with us and the CA, it's a much bigger issue. It's all of that provincial legislation that's been piled and piled and piled to the point that people are just finding it very frustrating for the amount of money you spend on consultants to try to kick this ball to the end zone. Sometimes it's not an easy task. I think that's his frustration overall.
Yeah, and we've heard this from Choco as well. Like, we don't have that many businesses. We want to make sure that we keep these ones. It's critical. Yeah.
Councillor Ballinger?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. My take on this was, I don't really see where Uxbridge is to blame here. I just think that they're frustrated, and so they have to take it out on someone. So if they send us this information, then maybe we'll get behind and help them out to move the process quicker. And that's how I read it.
So what do we want to do with this correspondence? Motion to receive, Dave?
Yeah, and no, and I'll contact Mr. Richards. Just another comment as well. He talked about how much the taxes that he pays. He pays about $160,000 a year. Just for everyone to know, that about $25,000 of that comes to us. 64 goes to the region, and 71 goes to the school board.
So you're going to follow up with Mr.
Yeah, and I'll follow up with Mr. Richards.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Reports to committee. DS 1218. C of A application A6 2018. This is for 44 First Avenue. Questions? Come on up, Amelia. Sorry, Councillor Malloy.
I'll move the recommendation.
Move the recommendation. Any questions? No questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. DS 1318. That's another C of A app for 25 Second Avenue. Questions? Councillor Malloy.
I'll move the recommendation again.
The recommendation. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Excuse me. DS 1418. Another C of A application. You've been busy, Amelia. Concession 6. Councillor Malloy.
I'll move that one as well.
Move that one as well. Questions? All in favor? Carried. And last but not least, DS 1518. This is another C of A app at 29 Smith Drive. Questions? Councillor Barton.
I support this one as well. I just have one quick question for Amelia. On the first one for First Avenue, there's the one photo that has the lots of view. Where did that photo come from? Was that from the resident?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't.
Yeah, he submitted that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Are you supporting Are you supporting 1518? Yep. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And 1618, this is Brian's on a demolition agreement at 4189 Concession Road 6. Councillor Malloy,
With the recommendation.
the recommendation, questions? All in favor? Carried. Any unfinished business for planning? Any other business? We have a thing from Municipal Affairs. The Local Planning Appeal Support Center is now open. So line up. That's, yeah. Questions, Councillor Malloy?
It's the Local Planning Appeal Center, but it's at 700 Bay Street, just thought
Yeah.
I'd point that out.
So it's not that local. It's within Canada, so it's Canada. Motion to receive, any questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Any other business? There being none, I will ask press questions. No? Public? That's you. No questions? Okay. I will adjourn planning and pass it to Councillor Malloy for admin.
Thank you, Councillor Hyatt. Under correspondence, I'll call this Administration Committee to order. Under correspondence number 57, this is from the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration. This is regarding nomination of someone eliminating discrimination. Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, a motion to post this on our town page, our website, and social media.
Great.
Okay.
Any other questions? And receive it?
And receive it, sorry. Yeah.
Great. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. This is 58, Minister of Labour, Occupational Health and Safety Branch. I think we're already doing all this stuff, but what would you like to do with this? Councillor Bryan? Just receive it. Any questions? Do you have a question, Councillor Hyatt? Go ahead.
With the through you, to Carolyn, the webinars, are you going to partake in the webinar, are you? Awesome, good. That was my only question.
Anything, do you have anything else you want to add, Carolyn, to this? We're just going to receive it, and I think you're doing it all anyway, aren't
Not
you?
at this time. I am registered for the May 28th
Good.
webinar.
Awesome, that was my question.
Great. So do we have a motion? We have a motion to receive? Yes. Do we? All those in favor? Carried. This is the Durham, item 59, Durham Regional Labour Council. They ask for this every year. We don't generally drop a flag, but we do always do a proclamation. What would you like to do with this? Councillor Barton.
Yeah, I think we probably should drop our flag for this. It's a day of mourning in Durham Region.
It is, I think the issue has been in the past, it doesn't fit our criteria. And I know we could probably argue that maybe the arena one we dropped last week might not have either, but to do a township-wide thing is not, it didn't fit our criteria, and that was the issue. So we do a proclamation, and probably what we could do is use the flag in the foyer, which is certainly fly one there if someone would like to make the motion. I think one of the issues too is we only have 2 flags. A lot of buildings might have 3 flagpoles on them, and you have that opportunity, but with 2 I don't think you do. Anyway, that's just my comment. So if you'd like to perhaps add that we put it on the courtesy flag in our foyer, that would be great, but it's entirely up to you. What would you like to do?
I'll move that we drop our flag just in front of this building for the day of mourning.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? Council? Well, it doesn't, but we could, we can always override it. If we choose to override it for a day, we can override it for a day. I don't know which flag you would take down. Which one would you take down, the Canadian flag or the township flag?
Well, what would you normally do? Would you put them both at half-mast for that event? Like when we put a flag at half-mast for any reason, do you put them all? Do we drop our township flag to half-mast as well? So yeah, so we do both for the day of mourning.
So for the day of mourning, your motion is to drop both flags only on the township?
Only in front of the township office.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
I know you look concerned, Councillor Ballinger, go ahead.
Well, I don't know where this ends, I don't know where it starts. We have a flag protocol. Does this fit in there?
It doesn't. I can only go by the past number of years. We've had this every year. We have this request, and it didn't comply in the past number of years. That's all I can say.
I
Go
think
ahead.
that is part of the challenge. We did lower the flag for the tragedy that happened last week. However,
Only at the arena.
for everything
But only
else,
at the arena.
well, we ended up doing it here too, but our protocol. And I think the only thing that everyone sort of worries about, some to make amendments, who else would?
So, we have a motion, are there any other questions on the motion? It's Councillor Barton's motion to lower both flags at the township building to half-mast during the, National Day of Mourning. Councillor Hyatt.
You mentioned earlier about the courtesy flag. Do we know, do they have a flag that they could provide to us?
I'm not sure.
Because I know where you're going, I think, with this, but if we're gonna do that, then we have to reconsider the whole policy. I don't think you can start making exceptions, and that's why we have it.
Yeah.
So that we don't, say, okay, we like you, but not you, that kind of thing, which can be very dangerous waters depending on whatever the cause is. So I'm kinda going towards this courtesy idea. If we wanna lower them half-mast at the arena or whatever, a non-municipal, directly municipal office building. Or we look at opening up the flag policy and reevaluating it. I just don't wanna get into, start promising one but not another, and then it could be very slippery slope, so.
So, we can vote on it as it is. Would you like us to do that, Dave? What do you wanna do?
So I'm gonna tweak it a little bit.
Okay.
Why don't we lower the flags at Public Works and the fire hall half-mast for this day? Those are both where we have workers that are sometimes in jeopardy.
That's your motion?
That's my motion.
And we're
You're
doing the
taking it out.
proclamation too, right?
Yeah.
That's part of your motion.
Okay, so Councillor Barton has suggested that we lower the flags at the Public Works and at the Fire Department on the National Day of Mourning, and to declare the day, do a proclamation. Okay, any questions on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Where are we at here? Okay, this is, we already moved the, item 60. It's been passed. Item 61, this is from, Community Care, the annual walk for mental health on June the 9th. Go ahead, Councillor Barton.
Just move to receive it for information.
I just have a quick question though, and I don't know if anybody can tell me. We do one here every year. Are we not doing ours this year? Does anybody know? We always do one in behind the Walmart for this.
It's going on anyways.
Yeah.
It was, I thought so. So this is a different one anyway, right? So we already do a walk here. Okay, great. Great. You made a motion, Councillor Barton, to receive it?
Yes.
All's in favor? Carried. Thank you. This is, Alex Nagy regarding, Dagmar to, the 2018 Mud Girl. I think the Cosmos wrote about this mud thing a number of years ago, didn't they, on April Fool's Day? Anyway, Councillor Barton, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to make the Mud Girl event municipally significant.
Great. Are there any questions on the motion? All's in favor?
It is.
Carried. Ladies only there. Item number 63, this is from, Sari Pandopoulos, and this is regarding the, Trailblazer trade, they want to use the park at Brock Street, at Wixon Bridge. Babes on Brock's, ladies' night. What would you like to do with this? Oh, Councillor Hyatt?
I'll make a motion to support this, as
Support
long as
it,
they don't leave anything behind.
Great. Okay. Motion to support. Are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is item 64, Crystal Matthews, Community Living Durham North, cancellation, unfortunately, of the ultimate race in 2018. Sorry to hear that. We'll go with Councillor Barton and Councillor Bryan.
I would just move to receive this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's too bad. That was a great event last year.
Councillor Bryan?
I was gonna do the
Ditto?
same thing, yep.
Great. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. That's too bad. Item 65, McKenna Hickey. This is, regarding the Exeter Smokehouse. They are also applying for a municipally significant event. Councillor Bryan.
Yeah, I would support this. I think it will help them out because they don't have their liquor license yet.
Okay. Go ahead, Ingrid, you have a question?
I just had a question, and I couldn't recall. Who is insuring the overall event? Do we know? We've offered to allow them to use the police station building, or what was the youth center building, and I can't recall, I don't believe they asked us if we would waive insurance, but they have a number of locations. I'm assuming the event is insured. I just wasn't sure. Is it through the BIA?
Not that I know of. Do you, Gord? Because it's a separately run event. It's a lot of the BIA businesses are participating, but it is a separately run event. So I'm not
I don't recall, but I would presume that if they're using the youth center, renting it from us, they have to come up with the insurance.
Well, but the insurance would be much larger than just the venue, right? It's an overall event.
Did you wanna contact, Tanya?
Yeah, I can contact
and
Tanya and
Joanne.
find out that insurance, and then I'll just send an email to everybody so we know.
That's fine.
Because presumably every venue you go into, they have their own business insurance on their own properties, and I guess that would cover them.
Right, but it's the other
does
businesses.
that mean you're walking down the street, you're part of Springtide? I don't know. I'm not real sure, I don't know. So,
But I sent an
Councilor
email
Bryan,
and
you gonna
find
look
out-
into that
Yeah,
for
I'll
us?
look into that and I'll let you know.
So what should we do with this? We'll just,
Well, we certainly want to approve her, right?
yeah. Okay. Okay, are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. Reports to committee, this is, do we have anything else on the addendum? Oh, right. On the addendum, we have, item 66, Mayor Geraldine O'Connor, resignation as the mayor of the township of Uxbridge. So the process is we should make a motion to receive this today. Councillor Barton,
Yeah, I'll give you a motion to receive this.
thank you very much. Are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. On this note, a couple of things have come up. We're trying to sort out throughout this whole process. The next step in this process is that Debbie needs to come back with a report, and the report's gonna say what our options are. And then following that, at another meeting, then we come back with, an appointment of an interim mayor. And, so I think, oh, go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, so first of all, we'll have to declare the seat vacant. So I will do that, a report, and there'll be a bylaw that comes forward. And, then in tandem with that, we'll be outlining the options available to council in terms of filling the vacancy. So, that's
Okay, so it's all about timing. So I think what we've talked about, and, we're looking for some comments, is perhaps having a meeting, one day this week, very quickly in the morning, because we can't do all of these at the same meeting. They have to be done at different meetings. So, we've talked about some time, I don't know what time we discussed anyway. We need to have a motion to have a special meeting that would allow us to hear just the options from Debbie. Declare it vacant, and then have the options. That's it for that meeting, and then we would come back on the 23rd to do the appointment. Councillor Ballinger.
To the clerk, Deb, when do you feel you'll have that report ready?
If council wants to proceed with a special council meeting, ideally, the agenda would, if we looked at perhaps the end of the week, the agenda probably would go out Wednesday. So I would make every effort to have the reports ready for that meeting, for the agenda. So
Can we have it ready for Wednesday, the report?
it is, well, it would go out in the agenda on Wednesday.
But
That's
could,
what I'm
no, okay, I'm just saying, can we have a special meeting, could we have the meeting on the Wednesday? We're just talking about some timing with a number of us this morning.
Well, I wouldn't have it that means the agenda basically has to go out
Okay.
today.
Okay, so we
And
only have...
there's no way I would.
So you need 2
here.
days from the day the agenda goes out?
Ideally, it's not an emergency meeting, so in terms of that kind of turnaround, when I'm preparing reports, I have to be able to have time to get them finished, once I get council's direction, and for dates and report numbers and all that kind of thing. So ideally, if we can give as much notice, which would be, the best I could do would be Wednesday to have the agenda out for perhaps a Friday meeting.
Okay, two things. Would you be ready by Monday? A week today? With this report?
So if you wanted to have a special council meeting Monday, you mean?
Don't we have council next Monday?
The 23rd, we do.
Yeah, so if you would have it ready by then, and then Councillor Beach would be back as well?
So if we did it the 23rd, it would be hard to do it all in one meeting, so you're declaring it vacant, you're looking at what your options are, and then depending on what council decides to do, appoint from within, appoint outside, then you're basically trying to have an election and deal with all those reports at the same meeting. So it would be much more transparent and timely to have the reports received on one council meeting and then deal with what you're going to do at the following one. So, special council meeting this Friday, then depending on what you're looking at doing, then you would be able to deal with that business on Monday night.
So we can't do them the same time, or you don't recommend we do them the
I
same time?
do not recommend that you do them at the same time.
Yeah, well, Pam's back on the
Yeah.
23rd. Pam's here for the Monday.
There's no real hurry, is there?
No, essentially, what I have to do is, depending on when you have a council meeting, so now that we've received the resignation, at the next meeting, then we have to declare the seat vacant.
Correct.
So if the next meeting is gonna be the 23rd, then that's when I would bring forward the report and the bylaw to declare the seat vacant, and I would have the report on the Monday night as well to give you what your options are.
Okay.
I think, personally, I think we could do them all that Monday night. I don't think it's rocket science. Everybody will be here, Pam will be here, we'll all be there. We can do them all instead of having a special meeting. Do the report, do the declaring the seat vacant, do the options, and make our decision.
Why
I
would
think
you-
one of the things that I'm concerned
Sure,
about is
sure.
I really don't want it going further into the nomination period in May. I think we should resolve it and get it done, however we're gonna decide, but let's get it done before we go into that period and get it over with. So I think we could, if we can do it, because it's not, not that we can't, I'd suggest that we do it that night, do them all.
Okay, so what that presents then is a situation where you're declaring a seat vacant, I'm giving you a report, then there's no provision in the agenda for if council decides to appoint from within or appoint outside, that's not on the agenda because council hasn't made a decision. So essentially, you're not giving the public, again, you have to give them notice in terms of what is going to be on the agenda, and that would be the purpose. Having the reports listed is for transparency, accountability, and giving the public the option to participate or not. So with just having the reports on for that night, it would be difficult for council then to turn around and say, if you're gonna appoint from within or you're going to go outside, there's nothing on the agenda for that.
So is there any chance we can do it on the Friday? Councilor Hart?
Can I ask, Deb, that we have to have this done, like, by the end of the month, for instance? There isn't.
There is timelines.
So let's say we, next Monday night, we declare the seat vacant, you provide the report, and then we have a week or 2 weeks to digest it until the next council meeting or committee meeting, correct?
There are timelines in the act, but, I mean, if we dealt with it within the next 2 weeks,
Like, if there's an urgency, I can understand having a special meeting.
No.
By having a special meeting, and I agree with what you said, you kind of exclude that kind of transparency piece.
Yeah, I'd like to see us follow
Looks
the
like we're
same thing
rushing,
as what we did at the
rushing the
region.
process, right?
Yeah.
So, again, you could speak to the timelines, because I really don't know. I've never faced this before, so.
My concern with this is all of a sudden we're gonna be getting into that election nomination period, right? So it's gonna make it even more confusing than it already is. So I think if we could have it done before, and obviously Friday doesn't work, as Councillor Ballinger said, he's in the city all day, is it possible to have 1 in the morning on a Monday, like a special 8:30 meeting, we have it, and we're still gonna have our meeting at night? Because then you still have enough time to digest it, you can make the decision before the nominations go in, and we can go from there.
I guess the other question is, can you do it at committee or council? Because if you don't do it on the Monday, then you've got to wait 2 more weeks after that to do it at council as opposed to committee the following Monday.
So, in terms of declaring the seat vacant, it has to be done by council, because you do the report and a bylaw to declare the seat vacant. So that has to be done at a council meeting. Whether it's a special council meeting or a regular council meeting, it doesn't really matter. In terms of the election process, it could be done at committee, but then you're having to wait to council to confirm. So, ideally, it's better to do it at council. I mean, if you wanted to do it that the reports are on for Monday night, the 23rd, and then perhaps have a special council meeting, next week as well, that might be an option that you could consider versus, otherwise you're waiting till the 14th of May.
Oh, okay, that makes more
So-
sense, okay. Councillor Ballinger?
Yeah, I think what's important here is that we're transparent and the public get a chance to
Mhm.
know what's going on.
Agreed. So, shall we consider that process? We'll go Monday night, we'll receive, and then we will can we call it the Monday night, the special council meeting, the date, or do we need to pick it now? Does it matter? We'll pick it Monday night, then we'll have a special council meeting next week, okay? A brief one, and then, and that will be it. Then that's that's the whole process, right?
Well, that's the process for declaring the seat
Right.
vacant. I give you your option, council decides what they want to do.
Then-
If it's a point from within, we could do that at the special council meeting. If it's a point from outside, then
That's
we start the
different. Yeah,
process.
yeah.
However, if it is a point from within, obviously, we're gonna end up start again
I
for
think the
filling that vacancy.
I think the question was asked, do we have to fill that vacancy in the ward?
You do have to fill it if, you have to fill it if it's not before 90 days. So it would be July the 24th. If it was after that, then you can leave the seat vacant. If it's before that, then we have to fill it. It's in the act.
Okay, so we're going Monday night, we're getting our reports, and then Monday night we'll determine whether we need a special meeting or not. That's where we're at. Okay.
If that's what council wants to do.
Okay, so where are we at? Is that okay with everybody? Everybody's good? She's back Monday. She's back Monday night. Yeah, she'll be here for the Monday night.
I don't have an issue with doing this on Monday, like the 23rd, is doing the, declare it vacant, and then whatever your
Receive the report.
speaks to.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be very careful. If you're gonna double up with an appointment meeting or an election meeting right after that, I think that the public will say, okay, you're trying to ramrod whatever it is through with no consultation. It could be an issue. I'm just putting it out there. So if you're asking me, what I would rather do is do what we're gonna do Monday night, declare it vacant, look at the report, and then depending on what that says or the direction that we're headed, will allow us to have maybe the regular meeting on, what did you say it was?
It's not until the
Seven?
14th of May.
I'm not seeing the urgency. Maybe you could speak to that. Do we need to do it? You're saying we don't have to. I don't know. I just think it leaves it in a normal course of things. Otherwise, it looks like we're jumping the gun here, or it could be perceived.
Gord, I think if it wasn't an election time, I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. I think that's the issue I'm
But what really
having.
does that factor have? I'm not clear on what that is.
I think it's just there's gonna be enough, Deb's gonna have enough stuff going on, Deb and her staff. So I don't see the reason if we come Monday night, why we couldn't have a special council meeting Friday morning. Gives us 4 days, it'll be in the paper, there's lots of notice, people will get contacts, I think we're fine, I don't think we need to drag it out 3 weeks.
But if we're getting into this domino thing,
I guess
Well,
the other
process is gonna have
option,
to unfold on its own, right? So-
through you, Mr. Chair, I guess the other thing to consider, again, depending on what happens, whether the appointment is from within or from outside, if it's from within, then you're pushing out again further the process for declaring that other vacant seat and dealing with it. So, I mean, again, it's kind of it's a juggle, there's no question about it. Are you asking me if there's legislation that says it's urgent? There are timelines, as I said, but we're nowhere close, even with waiting 2 weeks to, hindering that. As long as at the next meeting we declare it vacant, which would be the 23rd, you're still fine in terms of timelines. Again, though, it's up to council whether or not you want that additional seat vacant if the appointment is from within, being pushed out even further, so.
So we'll deal with it Monday night, the 23rd. Is that where we're at?
The report.
The reports.
The
yeah.
reports. And then just to be clear, when do we make the decision?
We'll decide that Monday night. Once we've seen the options that are available to us, and once we determine whether or not we're appointing from within or outside, then we'll make the determination on what our process is from there.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
So not filling the vacancy that Monday night, but looking and council determining what option they're going to select, okay?
Go ahead.
Debbie, what is the timeline to fill it after it's been declared vacant? Is it 60 days?
I can't recall, so at the very next meeting, they have to declare it vacant, and I think it is 60 days in terms of them deciding what they want to do, and then from there is the process can go after that. But I'd have to check, and I can email you with what those timelines are. I don't recall.
So, that's what's happening. We're bringing the reports Monday night, right? Okay. Did we, receive this letter, the resignation? Have we done that?
It was made by Councilor Barton, yes.
And we voted on it? Okay, could we vote on that again, just make sure we got it? All those in favor? Carried. This is a report to Committee BL 0718 of Andre Grattan. This is regarding the proposed uniform policy. Are there any questions? Councillor Bryan, are you asking a
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's another letter? Where am I at here?
No, it's a report.
It's a report.
Oh, sorry. Just a minute. Which one is it? BL 0818. Comments, anything like to do? Councillor Ballinger, I thought you might speak to this.
Yeah, yeah, I do. First off, thanks very much, Andre, for doing this report. I would suggest that we follow the recommendations that are here, receive it for information, and follow the recommendations, and pray for good weather.
All those in favor? Carried. Alrighty, report BL 0918, I'll skip the other one, I'll do it last. BL of Andre Grattan. This is regarding the impacts on bylaw services and proposed amendments to the site alteration bylaw. Questions or comments on that one? What would you like to do with this, Council? Councillor Barton?
Yeah, let's bring Andre up just to,
Do you have a question?
speak to, he seems to want to say something.
Do you have a question for Andre, Councillor?
He seems to want to say something, so
Jeff?
Andre, what do you want to say is my question.
Oh, I was just making sure that I'm ready for council.
Any questions?
I guess, I assumed you wanted to say something. So we are working, when's your next meeting with the LSRCA and the TRCA on this?
We're supposed to start circulate an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. We met fairly recently about it just to try and iron out how this is going to work, because when the changes were made to the legislation, it's a bit unclear. What staff would like to see is that we kind of act as the lead agency to this, that if CA would direct them in towards us, and then we would have a pre-con of sorts and have the CA there and ensure that everything's looked after. The changes to the act that they were looking for didn't occur, so they don't have those powers of entry, they don't have the stop work orders, so we have a lot of those abilities within our bylaws, so it makes sense from staff's perspective for us to be the lead agency for permits and also ensuring compliance.
Councillor Barton?
So, if this afternoon I wanted to dump 1,000 truckloads of contaminated soil on my property, who's going to stop me?
Today?
Yeah, today.
We both will.
Well, once the bylaws pass before council and formally amended, then we would go and stop them. It's from an enforcement perspective, is not going to change anything. We're still going to go out with Conservation Authority, and we're going to kind of do what we normally do, where we stand and say that's your side, this is our side for jurisdiction. But I think there has been some things that I've seen that we've experienced that we would like to have more of a role in and greater controls. And it also benefits the CA, because if there's something that they see that concerns them, then we can also have that work stopped as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Hyatt?
So I'm not sure what this MOU is going to say, but for instance, if we're taking on something that the CAA is doing now, how are we being compensated for that?
I think the intention is still that they serve as much of a role as they do now, but the permit would come through us, and we would ensure that all the concerns that they have are dealt with. So it's
So are they
more
deferring their responsibility to us? Is that what the plan
It's
is?
not completely deferring their responsibility, because my understanding of what has still changed, there still is a bit of an onus for them to issue permits.
Okay.
So that still has to be clarified, is whether or not when we develop this MOU that it doesn't stop them from issuing those permits.
Because to Dave's example, if someone is in violation, who's the enforcer here? Is it us? Is it them? Is it both of us? Is it? I just don't want some finger pointing going on. Well,
Right.
It's your jurisdiction. Well, that's yours. You know,
Right.
and nothing gets done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I don't think that it will create any of that. I just think that the ability to stop that work and the powers to stop that work lie on us. I don't.
So the
they don't
MOU is going to speak to
particularly
that.
have-
I
yeah.
I would hope.
Yeah.
I just don't want there to be any of these
Yeah.
gray areas, and we all know from past
Yeah.
history that there's people who
Yeah.
get in through the back door,
Yeah.
kind of thing, right? So
And that's what we're trying to do. I mean, we've had two meetings now, maybe even 3 of these meetings, so we're trying to get this all ironed out, so that people have an understanding, especially
where it's going.
residents as well, or contractors, that it's not, you know, they try and get a permit from them, and then we show up and tell them to shut it down, so that it's clear.
That's where I'm going.
Yep.
So would
Yep.
our staff then need additional training to have to deal with some of this stuff, or is it just from a permit point of view, you know what I mean?
I don't think so from the permitting perspective. That's more in Brian's jurisdiction.
Okay.
But from an enforcement perspective, 2 of my 3 officers have the ability to do that, including myself.
So you'd just be using,
So, yeah.
you'd just be using what's in place now, right?
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
I think one of the good things about this is the fact that at this time, the Conservation Authority could essentially give somebody permission to fill. Now they have to recognize our local bylaws, which is, it's a benefit. Yeah, so the permitting stage is the best part of this, that they have to really, pay attention to what our local bylaws are. Go ahead, Ingrid.
I think the other that we'll end up with pre-consultation processes now for Phil. And I think that that's gonna be really important, because they're gonna see a united front with both the township there and the Conservation Authority there, and any of the other ones like source water protection people if need be. And I think that's been part of the problem, is it gets caught in between whose jurisdiction it is, and now it'll be abundantly clear. Before you ever get a fill permit, you're going to be sitting at the table and having to provide all of the necessary background studies and everything else that are gonna be required, so.
Any other questions? Would somebody like to move this recommendation? Councillor Bryan. No other questions? All those in favor? Carried. This is report CAO 04-18 from Ingrid's Wellness. This is regarding our cell phone use policy. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Bryan.
Is this just something we're implementing like a housekeeping, or has there been issues?
There has been an issue, but also, it's one of those things, if you would be better off creating a policy, or an issue, you could have to how we want these to be managed, and my recommendation would be that it would be corporate-wide and council would be included in it. I didn't want to make any assumptions, but I think it should be corporate-wide.
Okay, I'll move that recommendation.
No, I agree with it. About 4 years ago, I had my cell with me, my BlackBerry, and didn't think anything of it. But these roaming charges down in the States, I was getting calls from residents and that, didn't think anything of it, until I found out what the bill was. And I understand it now. I know enough to go down and see Joanne and Public Works and say, look, before I go away, will you contact these people and put on the roaming so that I'm covered? Otherwise, that phone bill can go way out of whack. My own private little cell phone, I didn't do it with it. I got a bill for $400 and some odd for my little cell phone, just because moving just hardly anywhere from one district to another. So I agree with it.
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, there's a new program with Bell called Roam Like Home, where you can make one text from out of the zone. It's $5 a day, I think, if you're in the U.S., $12 a day if you're anywhere in the world. It might be decent security. It doesn't cost anything to do that. If we turn that on with all of our phones, we're not going to be surprised with $400. We'll be surprised with $35 or whatever. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, there's another point to this. Our whole issue around people taking their phones on vacation, we want those phones to be left here as well. Under Bill 148, if we're saying you can take your phone and you need to be on call, under Bill 148, we're probably going to find ourselves needing to pay for them being on call. We want people to start going on vacation. Turn your phone off. You don't need it. You're going on vacation. Leave your phone here. And so from a staff perspective, there will be just a few people that should carry their phone simply because of the position that they have, and everybody else will not.
I don't think that should include counselors. When I go away on holidays, I'm still gonna be listening to my phone.
Well, I'm not saying counselors, but I'm just saying, this is where the department head is basically saying, you don't need to be on call.
Right. And I'm not saying anything like that. This is more about insurance.
Mhm.
So if it's in someone's briefcase, they turn it on, or their kids turn it on, and it downloads their email, we don't get a $500 bill. So if we turn that on with all of our phones, we're not gonna be surprised with high bills anymore.
Get that through that?
Yeah.
That's essentially what Joanne does, right?
Well, yeah, but again, once you turn it on,
Yeah.
it's on forever. So when my wife went to Thailand, I turned it on. It was still on when she went away to the Middle East. It stays on.
So we're clear, just to be clear about that though, you're not expecting us, counselors, when we go away on holidays, to leave our phones here?
No, in fact,
okay.
this policy was largely written for our staff.
I know it was.
I think our counselors are gonna continue to take their phones. That's not, because you're expected to be available to the public.
Yeah.
But when we get into staff and they're taking their phone on vacation and they're thinking they need to be on call because the world will stop because they don't have their phone, that's not really what's gonna happen.
Okay.
They all have replacements to cover them off, and people should enjoy their vacation.
Great. Counselor Hyatt?
Just on that point, I'm not clear then, why are we bringing council into the fold here if it's a staff issue? And I get what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying,
You know what I mean?
Counselor Hyatt, that you don't need to be in it. If council's choice is that you're not in it, then you're not in it. It's basically speaking to things like, when to get a roaming package. It's speaking, we're not in, by any way suggesting that we're going to be deciding what council does with it. Council can decide. If you think this is appropriate for council to be under, then fine. If you don't, then that's fine too.
So what would you like to do with this? Do you have a motion by Counselor Bryan to support the recommendation? Okay, no other questions? All those in favor? Carried. CL 2218 Catalina regarding the Compliance Audit Committee. This is regarding our election coming up. Not bad. What would you like to do with this, council? Councilor Barton?
Yeah, support the recommendation.
Move the recommendation by Councilor Barton. Are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. On the addendum, we have report BL 0718. This is the uniform policy for Andre Gratton. Questions or comments? What would you like to do with this, council? Councilor Hyatt?
I don't know where Andre went, but anyway. Why do we need this? I thought this would be in place already. Did someone miss something?
I don't know.
Debbie, can you speak to that? Why are we
Do
doing
you know why
this?
we need this?
I would assume they would wear their uniform wherever they go, so.
Well, it's more than just uniforms, it's their PPE as well. So it's making sure that, when they're issued uniforms, when they're issued PPE, that they have to follow the policy that says they shall. Otherwise, there's no repercussion in terms of if somebody goes out and they're not wearing, say, their vest or
Gloves.
safety vest when they're doing traffic or whatever.
Yep.
There's no repercussion without a policy in place. So it's merely housekeeping and
I
ensuring that.
just assumed this would have been in place anyway, but anyway.
Yep.
Okay, I'll support.
Moved by Councilor Hyatt, support the recommendation. Do you have a question, Councilor Barton?
Yeah, I have a question with...
Do we need to get Andre here? Or can you answer it, Deb? Well, let's go ahead.
Well, let me ask it and then we'll find out. So, if it's 40 degrees and someone's going to Quaker Village to talk to someone about a fence, do they need to wear their bulletproof vest?
I think you need to look at it as more than a bulletproof vest.
Okay.
This could be, it's used for protection if there's dogs on the property, aggressive dogs. Even if, for example, they get into an altercation, the vests are used for protection that way too. So in answer to your question, yes. If it's so hot that it could be detrimental, then we would be looking at implementing our heat stress policy, and chances are pretty good, unless it was an emergency, staff wouldn't be attending if it is that hot. But
Okay.
in answer to your question, if they're going out, they should be wearing their PPEs.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion on this? Councilor Hyatt. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Is there any unfinished business? Any other business? And the press on administration or finance?
Yes, Councillor, just want clarification here on the process for replacing the mayor. You're going to, if I understand correctly, Ms. LaRue is going to present a report next Monday,
Yes.
and the report will be discussed, but no decision will be made next Monday.
That's correct. First, we'll be declaring the seat vacant on the Monday, and then the clerk will provide us with the options that are available to us on the Monday, and then we'll determine what we will do from that point on.
Now, there was talk about a special council meeting next Monday.
No, that's not been decided on. No, I think we'll
So
be
there
going...
there is no special council meeting?
No. I think whatever special meetings, if there are any, will be decided Monday night.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Moya? No? Alrighty, so I guess, where are we at here? We got it in camera, we have 2 items in camera. Do you want to take a break for 5 minutes? You want to go right in camera? Take a break for 5 minutes? Okay, we'll take a break and come back.